Wellness Show, episode 99.
Oh, and by the way, watch right to the end. We have a special offer for everyone.
Welcome to the Wellness Show, a podcast on health and wealth. I'm your host, Tyhson, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. I'm just going to start this again. So thank you very much. I love your work. I love who you are. I love how you're showing up in the world. So very powerful. So thank you very much. I know we didn't really talk about anything that we thought we would talk about, but hopefully that's okay with you.
I think we talked about everything we wanted to talk about, except for maybe the Eco-Village.
All right.
I know you're a piece of that, and that's really nagging me now.
What's that?
That you did all of the work. Well, it's nagging the heck out of me now to know more about the work you've done and who you are, because my big dream is the Eco-Village more than anything else.
Yeah. Who's your kitty here? Can you look your kitty up? Hi, kitty. Hi, Puss Puss.
He's shy.
Yeah, he's shy. Put me down, Mama. Yeah, okay. So we got a bit of time now. Do you have a moment? And I'll tell you. Yeah, I was led through my process in the late '60s, early '70s to create community. It was, and what I was led to do was create a youth hostel on the side of the Trans-Canada Highway, about an hour out of Vancouver. It was in the time with the draft dodgers coming across the border because of the war in Vietnam. So we had a lot of draft dodgers that would make it to our place. In fact, half of our community was those type of people. So we would be raided by customs and immigration on a regular basis. So learning to know who was who and also how to vacate the premises so they could scatter into the woods was part of who we were, but also continuing to carry on our work. So because we ran a youth hostel, I became the minor guru, which was another story of thinking I knew what was right spiritually for my own growth and what was would be beneficial for others, when in actual fact I had no clue what was good for for me or for anybody else. So that did come to an end after 7 years and about 35,000 people through our front door that we clothed and fed and took care of. And so it was exciting. We had about an acre and a half of organic garden. All of our meals were vegetarian. We had a community of about 20 people. We created a nonprofit charitable society to run the whole thing. We had a number of businesses from salvage company for trucks that went off the highway. It was a dangerous highway through the mountains, so we did a lot of salvage work. When the trucks went off, of cleaning up the accident scene. We became tree planters. We had 125 artists in a geodesic dome, so we sold arts and crafts. We worked with drug and alcohol addiction, on and on and on. We went tree planting. We paid ourselves $1 a day and put all our money in communally, and we went and bought some land in the Kettle Valley. And then we attracted a philanthropist to the work that we were doing who also wanted to do community. So that grew into 2 huge farms of 311 acres each. It was in the Kettle Valley, in a sort of cattle country. And we had wild horses that we took care of, and we had therapeutic horseback riding for kids with special needs. And on the other place on Cortez Island, we had a Waldorf school, and on and on and on and on and on and on. So community, and then we had I got remarried, and we had a community in the city as well. So they had 3 centers that we were able to move before, and we made connections with Findhorn in Scotland and helped fund them, and we did some work in Oroville International in India, which I visited. So the whole network of community was really part of what I was fascinating, and the evolution of consciousness that comes from learning how to work together in a collective way and honor each other, which was not easy because none of us had any skills whatsoever from our culture of how to do this. So that was learning how to do conflict resolution, how to do consensus through guidance, how to manage ourselves in a way in which we could come to a higher level of understanding. Yeah, so it was a really heady, wonderful, incredible time. Learned lots and lots and lots. And then out of that came Turtle Island Earth Stewards as that came to an end. Because when we went to purchase the land, we realized that we had to own the land, and then how do we own it collectively? And we can't will it to God because God can't sign the contract. So how do we put it aside in perpetuity for future generations? Well, then we had to create a land trust. So then what is a land trust, and how do you do that, and how do you create the legal documents to do that? So we became a land trust to create land stewardship. So then the trust organization has to be separate from the land steward. So how do you set that up so that we can create land that is permanently taken off the market and can be these eco centers for people to live in harmony with the earth and also in harmony with each other and do the co-creation work that we're called to do? How do we do that? We certainly don't want it in the form of a reserve with somebody telling us what we do or don't do. So how do we do all that management? How do we create a new structure? What's the legal format? So we got into land trusts, brought the land trust movement to British Columbia in Canada. And then for the next, I think it was until the 80s, we helped put lands in trust, develop land stewardship trust agreements about how to do that. And in many ways, land is so expensive that really didn't go anywhere. Although all the legal documents we created are still in existence, and they would work across borders. And some First Nations have been interested in it, to move from the reserve into a land trust so that they have their own control over the land, and also purchase other lands that can go back into the way in which land was held communally. So anyway, that was the passion that I was involved in. And now I mostly just work with Mayan elder out of, in the Mayan lands in the Yucatan, and I do coaching. I'm a mentor and coach, and help people step into their divinity and be the best they can be. Do the sort of work you do. Although I love yours, it's in the sense that you really are using your medicine. You really are the medicine movement, using your medicine bag to do that. I use more standard, well, they're not really standard, but more, I don't use the ceremonial as much as I could. We do ceremony here. We have a medicine wheel in the backyard. We do equinox and solstice celebrations. We do ceremony in that way and do gatherings. But I love the more intimate way in which you're doing ceremony. Gives me inspiration to think about how to do that with my clients too. Anyway, that's a long wrap, but it gives you a bit of a sense of who I am.
Where do you go in the Yucatan? I spent a long time down there by Cozumel and what is it, Isla Mujeres?
Yeah, and each journey is different. The one what we're going to do, we go to Villahermosa, and we go and look at the artifacts from the Olmecs and the Toltecs, the giant heads and the sculptures, which predates, well, they're the Atlantean remnants. Incredibly powerful, energetic carvings that have, well, like your paintings, they're imbued with all the original energy of those that created. You stand in front of them and they literally speak to you. And if you meditate with them, you'll be downloaded with infinite wisdom if you had the time to be there. They're all collected in a garden. So that's how we start off. We'll spend a day with those ancient sculptures. And then from there, we will go to the Utamashini River, which is a connection between Guatemala, the border of Guatemala and Mexico. We'll travel up the river to an ancient a ruin, the name of which I can't remember, but you only can get there by boat. And when you do ceremony there, the howler monkeys come down from the trees and they join you. It's the most incredible place on earth because there's no civilization anywhere there. You just go there and there's no other tourists. You're just there for the time that the boat's there, and then you come back and sleep in this jungle lodge. Then we'll cross the river and get a bus, and then we'll go into Honduras to Tikal. And Tikal is an amazing sacred site where there is actual statues that are about, I guess, 20 feet tall of all the indigenous elders or tribal peoples from the time, I'm saying getting shivers as I tell you this, from Atlantis, Lemuria, from the Star Nations. There's full regalia with headdresses, and they're all statues of the bringing together of the indigenous elders into council at that site, right? And so that site carries the wisdom of all the indigenous races that were on the planet at that time, and probably some of the Star Nations. So when you stand in front of these and do ceremony and open yourself up, which my shaman asks us to do, you get these downloads, and then we go around in a circle and share what it is that we've received, and that's really exciting. There's also huge rock carvings, which are like giant pods that came from extraterrestrials. You just get the sense that they literally came in and slid across the grass area there and came to a stop, and you can see them like a cosmic egg, like a turtle egg cracking open, with these star beings emerging from the inside, right? Like arriving at this site, and maybe that's part of how they got there to do ceremony. I don't know. Just as a amazing place. It's always been on my bucket list, so I get to go back there for the second time. I'm excited this time because I won't be so caught up in the structure of the place because I've been there once before. Now I can go inwardly, more meditatively, and be with the energy of the place rather than my eyes being just overwhelmed by everything I'm seeing. So I'm going to do some dowsing to find out the energy pathways of what's underneath, if I get time to do it at the site as well. So anyway, that gives you a bit of a sense of, so we're going to be this time, some of the time in the Yucatan, some of the time in Guatemala, and crossing the border into Honduras. I'm really excited. I've done this trip before, but I'm excited to do it again. There'll be about 15 of us. It's quick. It's only 7 days, but it still will be exciting. So on one of these journeys, you'll have to come. You don't have to come, but it would be wonderful. I'd love to come on one of your journeys. So sacred journeys are very much a part of my life. So I'd love to go to your world. I'd love you to come to my world, which is the same world.
It is, in a way, and we were all connected. My elders actually use the Maya calendar, and so Patricio had me at least study something of what it means to be a day keeper. So I keep the Maya calendar, and we use the Cachical one instead of the Yucateca. But I spent a lot of time in the Yucatan. I'm an interpreter. So I helped the shaman down there to take people on tours.
Wow.
And that was wonderful. We went to Chichen Itza and I forget the ones all along the coast.
Well, Chichen Itza, just to interrupt you, is Miguel that I work with. He was prime, what would you say, archaeologist for Chichen Itza. So he studies that in great depth. So he has a PhD as well as the full lineage of being a shaman as well. So again, like you, I have this combination in my lineage of being taught, of bringing the two worlds together, right? So
a wonderful thing because I think it lends an air of authenticity to the shamanism. For so long, we were just dismissed and poo-pooed. Um, and so much of this secret knowledge, the oral tradition of our culture, was taken away. And when you go and you can study it and you can get a PhD and then bring that to the table as well as the oral tradition, it's pretty amazing. So
Yeah, and but what a better place to study and bring that together than Chichen Itza, which is really, where the training of the shaman, that was the shamanistic place where you went to learn, right? So everything was there. So, being in charge of that site, he could go there and be in the ruins and, under the full moon and do ceremony and invite others to do it. And, his stories about what it's like to do that are incredible because there's no energy interfering you with the site. I mean, right now it's like a zoo, but we'll be into the site before the buses arrive around 9 or 10. We'll already have been in, done ceremony, and left before all that happens. But the other sites are much more secluded. But yeah, but Chichen Itza is really a special place. Really, one of the central places. So that's cool. So you get to be a translator, get to work with other shaman. So you've been able to have some of those experiences.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got started way back when. I'm a mom, so I have a 10 and a 12-year-old, and they're definitely little star beings. So I'm honored and I'm grateful, but it does limit my ability to travel somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
So those days are on pause for a while. But living here, I live close to my parents, and that helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I move around more than I could in Albuquerque. On the other hand, in Albuquerque, everything is family oriented, and native stuff always includes children. You never have to ask, is it all to bring my children? Because the answer is always yes. And they kind of look at you funny, like, well, what are you going to do with them if you don't?
Right. Exactly.
What were your plans?
Yeah. You have to almost go find your kids because they could be anywhere in the community and be safe, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And they grew up in ceremony. They grew up in Native American traditions, whether it was going out to Navajo land or going up to Taos or going to Colorado. It was good for them. But now it's time for them to get indoctrinated into white society or whatever the word is. I think we have to come up with a better word for it than that, because we're both pretty white people, but we're not really culturally white.
No, and thank God we aren't. I mean, the struggle to not be was, I just hope that we can find more people, particularly the empaths, and say it's all right just to be who you are. You don't need to fit in. Your job is not to fit in. That's not why you came to planet Earth. Stop trying to struggle and fit into the box. That's not for you, right? It would save a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and we can get on with healing the planet that much faster. So I love to work with empaths and help them, stand in their authenticity and start to deliver it to the world, right? That's one of my passions, is to get them to be able to believe in themselves, stop trying to fit in. So how old are your children?
They're 10 and 12.
Ah, exciting times.
It is, yeah. My son, Adrian, was definitely a star baby. He came in with the violet colored eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the really large frontal lobe, and very, very empathic. And my daughter, Ileana, literally means the light answered my prayers. And she was my tour guide in the Eco-Village in my dreams.
Wow.
And she said, you need to get me born. You need to take this painting to the shaman. Here's his name. You need to go out there and find him. And if you do those two things, then you're going to find this Eco-Village, or it's going to find you, or something like that. And along the way, they also led me to this little, I ended up carrying the effigy of a star ancestor for years. And it was all synchronicities that were put together kind of because of them. But one of my friends at the ashram out here in New York had been carrying the effigy of a star ancestor, a little one like this, a kind of egg-shaped amphibian pod, frog-faced little creature. The Navajo call them Ye, or I think the Apache say Yebachai.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the Kachinas, basically. And it's strange because he was so tiny, but it was so charged. Even it had broken in two, but it was carbon dated to 5,200 years. And it had been found in Colombia. But the weird thing is, I would go to these councils with my elder, like all the tribal councils, the priests and chiefs. And I took this thing around. He said, go take it to the other medicine men and see what they say about it. Because he told me he thought it was from the Southwest and he thought it was a little Kachina.
Mm-hmm.
And I would bring it out to the Hopis, and the Hopis would start with the pollen and the prayers, and they had little songs for it. And I said, oh, you know what it is then. They go, yeah, but we're not going to tell you. They said, that's your journey. You need to find out what you think it is.
Wow.
So boy, I carried that thing around, and there was Ukwala, I guess he was one of the elders for the Havasupai. He wouldn't look at it. He said, I'll tell you what it is if you just close that box. So I closed the box and I put it up, and he said, you know what you're doing with that? He said, you might want to send that thing back where it came from, because your thoughts and everything are going to be amplified by it. You're going to have weird dreams. You're never going to have a husband because it thinks that you're its mommy and it's not willing to share. And he explained, he said, hive creatures. So there's one queen, and there are many of these little kind of androgynous beings, kind of like he, right? And I don't know why I'm telling you all this, but it's just, I never talk about it anymore. And anyway, eventually I did end up sending it back, but I found consistently that if I was in a bad mood or I was feeling grumpy, then something bad would happen, but in a really ridiculous kind of amplified way. Anytime I had a suitor, something ridiculous would happen to him. It almost was like, like he goes to the bathroom, the toilet paper's hanging out the back of his pants type of thing. And he never wants to speak to me again because he's so embarrassed, or just ridiculous things that you can't make up. And so eventually I made a prayer ceremony with some elders, and we broke it up into pieces and prayed it back. And then is when I started having the weird dreams. That's when they started answering, because I think when I sent him home, they said, oh, the humans aren't all that bad. They sent our brother home, and ever since then I've had dreams of star ancestors.
Interesting. Fascinating. So do you think then that soul essence was captured in this little being, and that baking it up and doing ceremony, you were literally able to send it home to its star nation? Wow.
We prayed him home back to his people, and they received him. We all felt it like this, it kind of huge, expansive energy. And it was like when somebody crosses over, it was like he was, and he went back, and they received him. We all felt like they took him back into their bosom of the collective, and they sent back all these blessings. I was hoping that it would have a bigger effect on our society. On our consciousness, but at least that star nation, I think, knows that we're half decent, because it could have been used as a, if I had been a naughty person, I could have used it as a weapon, and things like that, or to enrich myself, or whatever stupidity people come up with.
Right. So it was really like a little, because you were the queen bee, it was really like would do whatever your bidding was, right?
Yeah, that one chief said it thinks you're its mommy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't want anyone coming near you.
Yeah. And you would have been the queen bee, so anything that you wanted to manifest, it would have gone about making sure that it got manifested. Right,
but then its own spin on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he said, because it's going to want to be in control. Because
it's going to come through its perspective, and it was put into this clay figurine 6,000 years ago. Oh, but then I found out. So I went to the Colombians. I'm sitting there with the Mamos, the Kogis, right? And I said, you guys recognize this? ¿Ustedes saben lo que es esto? And they were like, no, we don't know nothing. I said, you do so, you know something. And they, no, we don't know nothing. So, but it wasn't from Colombia. I said, tell me if it's from Colombia. they said, oh no, that kind of star ancestor wasn't here. And I was like, oh, well, what kind of star ancestor was there? You know, and like a dumb white girl, I get all agitated. And they're like, get her out of here.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, at the same time as they said that kind wasn't there, they're acknowledging that there were some kinds that were.
Yeah.
And then the Southwestern guys, they all acknowledged it. So the Hopis and the Navajos all knew what it was. So eventually it gave me all these dreams, and it told me its story. So there's like a whole novel in there just on that one.
Wow. So how do
But
we
as you're
get hold of
talking
your, we didn't put this, but maybe I can put it in the show notes. How do we get hold of your book?
Oh, it's Urban Shaman, like SHAMIN, and the ebook is on Amazon.
All right. Great. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is an exciting conversation. Of course, I recorded it, so I don't know if this is a second interview or whether this is a private conversation or what it is, but it was exciting to have this conversation with you and go deeper. Yeah, it's interesting because behind you is that painting that really does, you know, you've even got two suns there, right? Maybe that's...
Well, right? I'm not sure if it's two moons or if it's the reflection of a moon on the water. It's kind of
Or maybe
ambiguous.
it's the two suns that are in the legend that are appearing now in the sky as Nibiru comes back. Who knows? I mean, seeing as you're guided in this, you know, but there is two suns. Well, you know, there's the light on the painting there too. So maybe that is the sun, or maybe that's the reflection. Who knows? I love the...
Or the 52-year cycle of the two stars with Sirius, right?
Exactly, which would be also Nibiru coming back because of the larger cycle that we're going around, right? Love it. Great talking to you. So as I move forward with the show, one of the things I want to do is create the opportunity for key people who might be interested to do hour-long shows. And they would be like what we were just doing, but around a theme or a story or around... So one of my friends has been working on chakras. He's written books on chakras. So we do a series on each one of the chakras from his point of view, which was really a discussion, and I'd be asking him questions, and then it would go into my online academy as a course that people would then, you know, pay for. And that the interview on the wellness show would be the introduction to that person. So if you enjoyed this interview and want to know more about it, then come join us in the academy and pursue this topic in greater depth. So one of the reasons I want you to do this is to monetize the show, because it's extremely expensive to do this, right? Costs about $1,000 a month to do this. I love doing it. I love meeting the people. So I would also like to help grow other people's tribes, and it gives me an excuse to talk to people like you that I don't get to talk to otherwise. Just like your paintings became the vehicle for you to go and meet all these other wonderful people. So, you know, one of the possibilities, you know, could be your book. You know, could be the stories. And if you still have the copies of the paintings about what those paintings were and why you were led to do that, you would then end up with an online course that you then make available to your students, right? Or whoever's interested in your work. And of course, brings them back to one-to-one coaching, right? With you. So there's an idea off the top of my head about what it might look like for you. So that's the next step. What did you say?
I've been working up to that for years.
Yeah.
And studying all the online tools, techniques, the webinars, the Udemy, all of those different platforms. And I would love to do that. I'm ready. I'm ready to teach about seed sovereignty. I'm ready to talk about shamanism. I'm happy to talk about consciousness. That book is the scientific presentation, essentially, of consciousness.
Right.
And, you know, I think the book online is $6, but I'm happy to send you the PDF if you want it.
I'd
You're
love to
welcome to
have
look it
that.
over.
I'd love to look at that. So that's the vision or dream that I have. I mean, I've already created Academy. I didn't create it for me. I created for, it's called the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. I'm interested in helping people be extraordinary. Never mind being ordinary. Let's be extraordinary. We all are extraordinary. So that was the goal there. I have created also an online store. Yeah, Udemy and all the rest of them. I like those ones, and like Mind Valley. But this is for I think for the more weird and wonderful things that you and I are talking about. For that tribe that is ready to go where others fear to tread, so to speak. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but you get what they want to do a deeper dive. So that's why I created it and why I'm looking for this opportunity to, like, who wants to play with me, right? So that you don't have to go create all this crap yourself and spend all the money that I did. And of course, it's a way for me to monetize the fact that I spent an amazing amount of money to do this. It also helps pay my bills and gets me back out so I can do more sacred journeys and take people along on them so they can connect to their true selves. So anyway, that's what's in it for me.
That's exactly what I want to do. And I'm really grateful that you've put together the platform and the infrastructure. You just saved me a couple of grand, I'm sure, and a few more years of work and effort. I've been researching it for 5 years. I've built my own websites, I don't know how many times. And it's just frustrating. And a big part of it for me is the energy of people playing together.
Mm-hmm.
It's different is when you're excited about something and someone else is excited about it too. Then there's this dynamic that happens, again, this heart expanding kind of thing starts to happen. And without that energy, then it's just no fun. Yeah, I can do it all myself. It sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks doing it alone. And then there's the nagging issue constantly of, should I get a job? Like, around here I could get a job that pays at least $7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
So all the degrees that have taken me 20 years to get are completely useless because I'm surrounded by chicken farmers.
Right.
So I'm not that psyched about that, but I'll do whatever I have to do to take care of my children.
Right.
So just been praying on that a lot. So yeah, you say go and I'm ready. Like I have all of the courses laid out. The shamanism I've just taught, a year cycle, and you can push go, and I'm ready. Sovereignty, I live it. So we can talk about anything to do with natural healing, seed sovereignty, herbal medicine. I studied with Susan Weed, so I can make vinegars, tinctures, medicine, anything, plant identification, seed saving, and how to build relationships with the plants. I talk about that a lot, which is really important. Absolutely. It's not just that you're growing foods, that you have a heart connection with it and it loves you and you love it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put together a rough proposal. Don't get caught up in the numbers. It's all negotiable. It's all you and I figuring out how we want to play together. What we haven't had in this conversation, but maybe we will do it another time, or maybe it's time to do it now, is the Eco-Village. I know that this is coming through you as the next step, right? And yeah, I swore I would never do it again unless there was a more highly evolved group than I ever played with, right? The dynamics of 2 more toothbrushes in the same bathroom is not my idea of fun, unless people know how to come from their, at least get back to their true nature, and are willing to work on that, and allow others to help them, to remind them that they're in the human mind consciousness, and how can we help you get back into your divinity? Otherwise, I certainly don't want to do that. But I know, I said in the 70s when I was interviewed, in the local press of all places, I said the next evolutionary step for humanity is to learn how to live in community, which is, of course, what indigenous people have been doing since time immemorial. And we've just lost it in our culture. It's time for us to rediscover it. The selfishness of competition and my little kingdom and yours, we need to bring this to an end. So yeah, community, Eco-Village, how do we do this, you know, pretty exciting stuff, right?
When we get the right seed planted, I worked with the 13 grandmothers, and they gave me one of their letters of approval, and they nicknamed my foundation the Template Project, because I don't want to create 1,000 different eco villages. I just want to make one,
Yeah.
you know, create a template that should work pretty much everywhere. That means that everybody has to adjust to their local environment and to all the people who show up. But there should be enough space in a general way in the concept that we really only have to do the planning once. So like what you're talking about the land trust, about the agreement, about all of that stuff, the charters, and how much money does each person put in to get in? Do they put in any money? Can they take out money if they want to
Yeah,
leave?
all that
All
stuff.
that stuff.
I've been down that road. I mean, I spent 40 years thinking about this. It's, you know, part of who I am. So, you know, if I could leave that gift for the next generation, to me, that's part of my legacy, right? So I haven't destroyed my filing cabinet of all this stuff yet. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, knowing that there might be a time and place in which to this would come back into its own and could be used, right?
Yeah, and my elder and I spent a good 5 years talking about it, and I started my process with him by asking him questions about how things were done in the old way and how we could integrate that into a new way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I have a lot of that traditional knowledge that's been planted in me, and then also we've written down a lot of it.
Great.
He calls it One People Tribal Nation. His idea is that we're going to make a new tribal nation, and that will essentially secede from this ridiculous government that we have, if you can call it that, and
Right.
And that will secede into an interconnected series of eco villages that all have essentially, you know, community furniture, but it's built. You know how they do in Mexico, where everything is adobe, and they build an adobe couch shape, and then there's a cushion they put on it, so that you don't have to have furniture. You don't have to cut down trees. You don't have to remake everything, and you can just take a bedroll basically and travel from one eco village to another. So, you know, we talked a lot about that and wrote a bunch of stuff down. I visited a lot of eco villages, you know, Serious Community and the farm, and did a lot of research. So yeah, that's the big dream. I don't know when or how that's going to manifest, but that could be an ongoing dialogue too.
Right. Right. Well, lots to think about. So I'll leave you with those ideas about how you want to play. Like, what's the most exciting one for you? I guess for you and your kids, is we have to think about what would be a revenue generator for you too, right? So that you have the money to do the next step. So a lot of what I'm doing, it costs a lot of money, and I just not going to throw money at the wall anymore. A lot of my projects will be volunteered, but so I want to run, you know, I want to make $1 million to reach 1 million people, or, you know, make millions to reach millions. So, because there's a lot of charitable things I want to do, and it takes money to do it, right? So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, let's start teaching online and build an audience, because I think at the same time as that generates revenue, and it helps us to birth the knowledge that we're carrying.
Yeah.
It also, you know, it creates an audience that generates revenue, and we're training the future eco villagers.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Great. So yeah, I like that. So we could do a whole course on eco village. You know, some of the thoughts and ideas, and we could even have a Facebook site on it where people could come and learn about it. So yeah, that's a possibility. And I don't need another project, but it's an exciting project. It's a project that I think its time is now, right? Sort of repository for people to be able to pick up these skills, learn how.
We have a pretty decent following with One People Tribal Nation, at least a few hundred people, but we literally know them all, like either Patricio or I or Adam Yellowbird. We know them all physically, and they're all people who really want a tribal nation.
Right.
And not a Native American one, but a tribal in terms of community
Right.
nation.
All right.
So I
Great.
think we have support, and then, yeah, whatever you want me to start teaching about. I'd love to teach about consciousness and shamanism and all of
All right.
that. And maybe those 1, 2, 3 steps, like the seed sovereignty, consciousness, shamanism, that's a 1, 2, 3 that's leading towards the eco-village.
All right. So why don't you sort of map that out with a paragraph on each one of that? Shoot it over for me, and I love to be creative, and we'll come up with some way of doing it. Hi, Pussycat.
Say hi. Hi.
Definitely shy.
She's really sweet.
All right. It was great talking to you. Thank you for your time. I'm glad that we
Very
didn't have to rush this and get to know you. And thank you for doing your Turtle Island painting, because I just had to reach out and interview you right away. There was no question in my mind. So yet again, your paintings were the connection that brought us together, like no doubt in my mind. So thank you. And we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Hey, thanks for watching right through to the end. We do appreciate you here at The Wellness Show. And to show our appreciation at this wonderful time of year, we're going to be giving away a $50 gift certificate over the next 12 episodes. And at the end of the 12 episodes, we'll be giving a $500 grand prize gift certificate that you can spend at either the Wellness Store or the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Now, how do I get entered in to win this? Simple. Like, share, comment, or subscribe to our channel, and then come over to our Facebook page, The Wellness Show, and let us know that you did so. While you're there, you can also comment and enter into the conversation about the current episode and have answers back from Tyhson and the people that were interviewed. So again, like, comment, share, subscribe, and tell us you did so on the Facebook page, and we'll enter you in to win a $50 gift certificate, 12 of those, or the $500 grand prize gift certificate to be spent at the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy or the Wellness Show. And happy holidays from me, Tyhson Bannigan, and all of us at the Wellness Show and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy.